So no matter how well you set up your data science team and no matter how nice the personalities are, there will always be some potential internal difficulties. Some of these are related to personalities and interactions between people. Some of them are related to the way that data scientists and data engineers tend to work. So it's up to you to sort of set up an environment where these sorts of problems are minimized and it's possible to sort of keep the process moving as quickly and in as good, sort of friendly a way as possible. So the first thing that can often happen is there can be interpersonal conflict. Now this happens in any organization, but obviously when you're dealing with sort of heavily quantitative folks who often are maybe a little bit introverted and maybe have a little bit less interpersonal interaction than people in other sort of external units might have, you can have some difficulties of interaction. So I think it's very helpful to right up front have a policy on the code of conduct. This policy can cover all sorts of things, but it should definitely cover all of the biggies. Obviously, you don't want any sort of put downs on the basis of sexual orientation or on the basis of race or on the basis of sex. And all of that sort of thing can be built into the policy, but it can also cover more subtle things and more data science specific things. So for example, if there's going to be code review, if one person is going to review someone else's code, you might set up the parameters for how that's going to happen. Are they going to make the suggestions? Are they going to immediately submit changes or fixes to people's code? Are they going to do that in a way where they communicate with the person who originally wrote the code or not? When people are reviewing each other's code in a group meeting, how are they supposed to communicate? Are they supposed to be critical? How are they supposed to be impartial? How are they supposed to interact with each other? Now, this seems a little bit pedantic to have these sorts of things set up in advance, this sort of policy, but it can really save you a lot of trouble in the end run if you upfront explain, here are the expectations for how our organization is going to run. It also helps in a data science organization, like I said several times, there's sort of often uncomfortable truths that you discover with data, whether it's something that you didn't quite expect or whether it's a product or a machine learning algorithm that failed. And so having a code of conduct in place to prevent sort of personal hurt feelings is a critical component of this. In that code of conduct, it also makes a lot of sense to explain what you mean by success and failure. So if you only define success by the machine learning algorithm works, or the software never has bugs in it, or the hardware never goes down, there will be a lot of failure. But if you define success as, identifying problems, tackling those problems, and not always getting an answer that everybody expects, you kind of reduce the pressure on any individual analysis. And that allows people to act sort of more impartially, really let the data speak for itself. In addition to this policy, you need to have open communication, allow people to communicate directly with you and with each other about whether that policy is being enforced, and make sure that they feel empowered to have that conversation with each other. This is really critically important, both in a general sense, but also very specifically for data science. It needs to be a policy that open criticism of each other's data analysis or other people's data infrastructure is accepted and embraced, but at the same time, that criticism isn't made to make people feel awful or isn't used to hurt people. It's just used to improve the entire process. So if you organize it in that way, people will be open to criticism and they'll be willing to sort of make changes if they don't feel like it's going to hurt their job and their job prospects. The other thing is, in the extreme circumstance where people are not adhering to the code of conduct for either sort of general purpose reasons or for data science specific reasons, it's very useful to have outlined what are the steps that are going to take place. What's the enforcement? Whether it's something like, I'm going to point out when you're behaving incorrectly in a code review, or whether it's something like, at a certain stage, you'll be barred from coming to this meeting for this period of time. Whatever it is that you need to establish, it's better to say it up front rather than to invent policies on the fly when dealing with a data science team, especially when you're dealing with diverse people who have different expertise and maybe different expectations about what's going on. Another thing that you need to deal with, or another problem that often comes up internally, is inter-meeting slowdowns. So especially if you've established regular individual meetings, regular group meetings, you hope to see progress at each of those meetings. You hope to see problems getting solved or at least tackled. But sometimes that slows down. And like I mentioned, that can often be for very trivial reasons. There's a little bug in the code and you just can't see it. So you want somebody else to take a look at your code and help you fix it and get unstuck. So the key here is to identify the core issues. What's the real problem? Is it that the person isn't self-motivating? Is it that they're not chasing, they don't know where to go look for the right answers? Is it that the interaction between the data engineers and the data scientists, or the data scientists and the external people, it's not happening? So you can either deal with that by increasing your interaction, getting more directly involved, emailing to ask questions about how things are going. That's sort of a delicate balance because, like I mentioned, data scientists and data engineers need long periods of uninterrupted time in order to actually solve these sort of quite technical, challenging problems. It's also useful to sort of check on people's motivation. So you might have a data scientist who's working with, say, the marketing team, but they don't really like marketing. They would much rather be involved with a different team. They'd rather be involved with product, and they'd like to be building data science products that can be externally used. And if you don't identify quickly that their motivation is flagging, it can be very hard for them to get going. Again, given the frustrating nature of data science and data engineering for the people that are doing it, motivation is critical. So identifying and fixing problems with motivation is one of the key jobs of a data science manager. So this comes back to the idea of frustration. So frustration is something that will always come up with data science teams, both people externally being frustrated with the data science team for not getting the answer that they wanted, and frustration internally because the stupid software isn't working the way you wanted it to. And so a way to fix that problem or to keep that problem going is to remember to use lots of positive feedback. Whenever successes are there, you need to celebrate them, help people keep being excited about coming in and working on those data science problems, but also impartial feedback. So the key there is to talk about the code, talk about the hardware, don't talk about the person. Always sort of focus on the problem and how the problem is going to be fixed. And again, not to say that problems are an issue that will cause you to have difficulties with your employment. Like if the machine learning algorithm isn't working, that doesn't mean that you're going to be done. It means we're going to try a different machine learning algorithm, or we're going to get a different data set, or we're going to try to tackle a different problem. That'll keep people motivated and not make them fear that if they don't do the analysis in a certain way, they won't be able to sort of keep their job. So motivation is a huge component of keeping an internal data science team going.